Hello, everyone. I'm happy to introduce you to the first session of this Mautic conference in this track with Jan Linhart, a name that may sound familiar to you. And that's because Jan is one of the earliest developers of Mautic. He joined 2014 as the second developer and full-time for Mautic. So it sounds to me like this is a 10-year, full of 10 years as well. So congratulations, Jan.
Thank you.
And you picked one of the most interesting topics, I think, at least for me today, with the deploying Mautic with Docker Compose. And I think that's a long story about Docker and Mautic. So interested to see what's happening today, what you're going to present us. For all of you that are watching this session, you can ask your question in the Q&A section. I'll also vote for questions that you like to get answered. So if we run out of time, we will work with the most voted questions. Have fun. Thank you. Jan, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Dirk. All right. So I came here to talk about Docker Compose, but I'm sure the first question will be how come I am wearing a shirt? And there is a story behind it. So I was working on this project that I will be presenting to you for a few weeks, and I was postponing all the chores to work on this, so I ran out of my clean t-shirts. So this is the only thing remaining. All right, so I will get to it and share my screen. It should be this. Okay, cool. So I will be basically building on top of work that was done by Matthias from Dropsolid. And he basically created a new version of Docker for Mautic 5. And he basically built it in help of Docker Compose. So basically, Docker is a single container. Docker Compose is orchestration for several containers to work together. And he created this example, or several examples, actually. So I was looking into this Docker Compose, where you have a container for the database, for web, which is handling the web requests. And it has a container for cron, for background tasks that we know from Mautic 4. And it has also a special container for Mautic Worker that is new in Mautic 5, and it is sending emails. So I tested this locally, and I said, hey, this is working great, but how do I deploy it anywhere? And then there is, for example, some old article on knowledge base of Mautic.org about how to install Mautic with Docker on DigitalOcean. And I like DigitalOcean. I use it for many years for my hobby projects. And Ruth was also asking several times, hey, is there somebody who could update this? It's not working. If you follow the steps. So let's see what we have here first. So it has what's covered is MySQL installation, SSL, that's the HTTPS in front of the domain, Mautic, of course, reverse proxy with Nginx. And then you have these instructions or of what to copy where, and some commands that you should run. And this is basically how normal tutorials work, right? So I was thinking, hey, I will update it and try to make it better. But in the end, I spent too much time on that. So I will show you. So I created a new repository. And I took basically the Docker Compose that we saw on Matthias's repository. It's Mautic repository, but the example that Matthias created. It's the exactly same thing. So it has a database and a web container and a cron container and so on. How do I get back? All right. I said, hey, instead of writing an article of what to do and what commands to run, I could automate it, right? So GitHub repositories have option to have actions. So these GitHub actions, it's a small program. It will be a container as well that is created. It does what it should based on some scripts, and it kills itself. And so, for example, in Mautic repository, we are using these actions to run tests. And if a test fail, you cannot merge the code change to repository. You have to take care of the tests. But in other cases, it can be used for deployment, right? So it can execute a set of commands and scripts and deploy the code in the repository to some virtual private server. And so I started playing with this. And I'm sorry, I don't have any slides, but I will be using README of this repository as a topics to talk about. So let's step back a little bit, and now let's ask ourselves if this is for you. Is this really what you want to do? Do you want to spend your time and evenings and you run out of green shirts because of this, or you can start your free trial of Mautic right now, and you don't have to worry about anything. You just fill in the form, and here you go. You can start playing with Mautic and setting it up, and then pay for the service later. And actually, if you pay for the service, 40% of the income goes back to the community. So it's a great option to first have headache-free hosting of Mautic and support the community at the same time. And if you don't want to do this, there are other options. So I would suggest to look at the partners section on mautic.org. And here you can see several partners that, again, give resources, not only money, but also time of their employees back to Mautic. So if you want to host Mautic for a small amount of money every month and support the community, do it with these companies, please. All right, and you get not only the hosting, you get services which you don't get with this repository, because I don't have enough time to support issues with this. Okay, so if you decide to go further with me, you have to figure it out and hopefully help me with improving it. Okay, and now we get back to what I was saying. So with this repository, once you set it up, it takes 10-20 minutes to get all the keys and passwords and configuration set up for this. So once you do that, it takes less than 10 minutes to actually deploy fresh Mautic to a VPS. And you can, for example, upgrade Mautic in one line, just commit it to Git, and it will deploy automatically, upgrade your Mautic and set everything up. And you can downgrade. If something goes wrong, we know that the testing is not perfect. So if you find out, hey, this release is really bad, there is this bug that is breaking my workflow, you can just revert that commit, and it will deploy automatically to your server and downgrades you. So you can install themes and plugins with Composer. So there are several discussions in this repository about how to do that. And it's not really straightforward because it's running in a container which should be stateless. So you shouldn't write any data inside the container. So installation of a plugin or a theme is a change that shouldn't happen in the container. So how it's supposed to work is you should update the Docker file, that is basically the definition of the container, with the new plugin or a theme, and build the image out of that Docker file and deploy it. So everything is stateless, static, and the great thing about, I know that many people are worried about Git, that it's too complicated, but it gives you a record of who did what, when, and why, which is very important when you are changing such a big part of the application, like installing a plugin. Many things can go wrong, and you want to know who did that, why, and have an option to revert that change. All right, and then you can have a team, right, that can change these settings, and you don't have to have just one person in the company that is having the knowledge and access to do this. And with GitHub, I know that probably most of you are technical people that are coming to this talk. With GitHub, you have pull requests, so you can actually propose the change that you are suggesting, and somebody else will review it, and then it gets merged and deployed. So this is perfect solution for, instead of just logging into the server and doing some shady stuff, and week later you don't even know what you did there. This is completely different world. And GitHub also supports some project management. So you have issues that if your team member doesn't know how to do the stuff, but there is an issue, they can log it, you can create new issues, and you can have boards of the issues, and you can move them from one column to another, as in tech companies we are used to. So you get all that in for free just with creating a GitHub repository. All right, and there are also other perks like security scans that you can enable. So automatically some bot will scan this repository, this code, and it will tell you, hey, there is no security vulnerability. You should upgrade something to fix that. It's better to know from a bot than from some hacker. Okay, and this solution will also allow you to scale vertically by increasing the DigitalOcean resources. I think I have a screenshot for that, and horizontally. So you can, for example, create more worker containers and send, if you create 2 containers, you will send twice as fast. If you create 10, you will send 10 times as fast. All right, so what are the requirements? So you will need a GitHub account, you will need a DigitalOcean account, and you will have to put your credit card in. So the smallest virtual server that you can get is for $6 per month, but later at the end of this talk, I may tell you how to avoid that, at least temporarily. And you need a subdomain. Technically, you don't need that, but running Mautic on an IP address is, it will look a bit sketchy in the marketing world. And so what you need to set up is you have to get a bunch of keys, passwords, and a little bit of configuration. So let's dive into that. So you will need a private key because we will be deploying through SSH. So to do it securely, you have to generate, or probably you already have a private SSH private key in your home folder. So you can use that or generate a new one. There is a link to the official DigitalOcean documentation of how to generate it. It's just one command, and how to upload it, or where to upload it in the user interface. And this fingerprint, I'll show you quickly. So this is my personal account. So I have two keys, and one of the things that we need is this fingerprint. So when I didn't mention that yet, but the deployment script will create the virtual server as well. So it will basically take this fingerprint and deploy your SSH key into that, so you can log in. All right, and then you will have to have a DigitalOcean access token. So you will create it again when you are logged in. Click on this. You will get to the right page where to generate it. And then you will have to select some, or generate preferably some Mautic password. So you will be able to log in later. So those are all the secrets. Here's a screenshot of, I can click this settings button here and get to this place where you will basically say, create a new repository secret, and you will paste the key and the value, and do that 4 times. So this is the one part. And then there are variables. So secrets are secrets. So you cannot see them. Once you save them, you cannot see them anywhere. Variables, you can see, you can change them, you can edit them. So there are 2 variables, which is domain, where the VPS will run, and we will get to that later. And then email address, which is used for creating the Mautic admin account, and also to create the SSL certificate. Okay, and here's a quick architecture. So imagine there's a user, or we have 3 users, 3 browsers. They will make a request. Here's the DigitalOcean private, virtual private server, or VPS. And it has only 2 programs installed in it. It is Nginx and Docker and Docker Compose. So Nginx will get the request, pass it on to Docker Compose. Docker Compose has its own network solution. That's why we use it. So the web container will take the request, make some request to the database, return the request back to Nginx and back to the browser. And then there's the cron container and Mautic worker. But you know what? Let's quickly stop here the theory and deploy it, right? So I will refresh the page. So you can see that I have 3 droplets that they are called VPS here. And I will go to actions. I select the latest one, and I will just rerun it. Okay, and for the first time, it will take around 8 minutes. So hopefully the queues in DigitalOcean, in GitHub are okay. It started working. So there are several steps. We can quickly run through them. So it will check whether you've set up all the required values that I just showed you with the secrets and variables. So if you do not set them up, it will fail here, and in the output you will see what is missing. All right. So once the secrets are there in place, it will install DigitalOcean Couple, which is a command line tool which can create VPS in DigitalOcean, in your DigitalOcean account. So if it doesn't find that it exists, it will create it. And it will create it with, yeah, that's the next step. It will create it with the minimal settings available. for this kind of setup. So it has one CPU, one gigabyte. Region, you might want to change that. It's New York. You can see it provided SSH key. And this way it creates a new droplet. So if I go here and refresh, there is this new Mautic VPS. So that's freshly created. It doesn't have any charts just yet of resources because it's very fresh. Okay, so it will create a VPS for me. Then it will wait for the IP address. So this is the IP address that DigitalOcean gave to my new droplet or VPS. It's the same thing. So I know where to access my Mautic later on. And now it's waiting. It's waiting for the droplet to be accessible because it's still building. Okay, server is now up and accessible. This is great. Okay, demo gods are not with me today. Okay, yeah, this is actually okay, because when I was testing last night, I did not delete the domain configuration, and the domain configuration. I will just show you this quickly. The domain configuration is the DNS is now pointing to different IP address, and this action failed correctly because there is a check if it points to the right IP address. So two-factor authentication here, very secure. Okay, so I'm just deleting this variable, and I will rerun the action again. Now it will be a bit faster because we already have the VPS. Okay, let's get back to the README. Okay, so we have configured this. Okay, one more thing that I'm not sure everybody knows. It's very important. When I firstly played with Docker, I did not know that. But if you create a container, store some stuff there, for example, to the database, create some pages and so on, and then you delete that container, the data is lost. So when you start it again, it's completely fresh. So you need volumes, which are basically some files and folders live on the VPS itself, and they are shared between the containers. So once the container is deleted, the data is still available here, and you won't lose it. You can also change some values, for example, in local PHP here, and it will show up in all the containers, which is handy. Okay, so here, if somebody did not see this presentation, I have described all that I just told you about, all the containers and volumes. So let's skip that. Okay, the action is still running. I can see the yellow dot here. Let's see where it is at. Okay, so we moved further to deploying the deployment step, and it is using rsync command to basically take the files in this repository and push them to the VPS. So that's what it's doing right now, and then it's executing a script. So that this script is basically, it will start everything, build everything, configure everything. So it will take a few moments. Okay, so now how do you install themes and plugins? I said in this repository in Mautic organization, there are discussions or issues about how to do that. So I was actually playing with this, and I created my own Docker file. So basically, it takes the Docker file that Matthias created, and I'm doing a few more steps. So Matthias basically created the Docker file to be very minimal. So whatever you do not need on production is removed. And so I have to install a few libraries or programs like Git and npm. So I will be able to install Composer, which is not in the production container, which is good for security reasons, and also it's smaller if it's not there. And this is basically how I then install some theme into Mautic. So I will say, hey, Composer, install me this theme. And then I'm basically starting from scratch again, from Matthias's original production container. And I just copy the data from here to here, but it doesn't have Composer, it doesn't have npm installed in the production container. So I'm following his steps, his ideas in here as well. But here's basically an example of how to install a plugin or a theme. Okay, cron jobs. Always a discussion when somebody starts with Mautic, like how do I configure that? And in this case, it's pre-configured for you, and it will be configured on the server for you. And here's a configuration, basically the cron tab of what will be running there. So there's a bunch of commands that you can modify. So these ones run every minute, these ones every week, I think. So you can modify that, change that however you like. But again, you will do that in this repository. You are not doing that in the server, and you have the trace that you did it, or whoever did that, when they did that, why they did that. And once they basically, you don't need any program other than your browser. So I will just change the value here, commit the changes, and the automatic workflow, the GitHub action will run and deploy this change for me. All right, so cron jobs, no problem. HTTPS, SSL certificates. For a few years, we have Let's Encrypt that can be which can be used for free for certificates, which is great. So we are using it here as well. And again, once we supply the domain that I just deleted a few moments ago because it wasn't pointing to my IP address, once we supply that again with the right DNS record, it will also configure HTTPS for me. I don't have to do anything. Okay, let's look. Okay, it's still running. Oh no. Broken pipe. I am afraid I will not be able to prove that it's working. It was yesterday. Let's see. Debugging live. So there is one more step that is downloading the log from the setup script and uploading it as an artifact to every GitHub action. So I actually have a log that I can download. I don't have to log into the server and trying to find it. I will just download it and see what it was doing. So such a long way. So it's building the containers. But at the end, it's installing Mautic. Interesting. It's creating schema and then it shut up. Okay. So what happens? Oh, what happens? Right, you weren't able to see it, right? Because I'm showing only the browser window. Sorry about that. So let's take a look what happens here. Open your Mautic instance step. What did it do? Login. Okay, we are up and running. So probably just the connection between the rsync broke up and everything else was correct. Nice. Okay, so let me show that. I have the password somewhere, and I made a typo when I was creating it. So where do I have that? Here. Okay, so I can now log in with the email address that you were able to see in the variables. And okay, I'm in. Cool. Nice. All right, so demo gods are with me today. But let's configure the domain as well. So I will just take this IP address. And in my DigitalOcean, I have the DNS records right here. Monitoring, networking, domains. I have some testing domain here. It has a short TTL, so we wouldn't have to wait long. Oh, I didn't even need the IP address because DigitalOcean suggests me my droplets. Okay, so I will just copy my domain and I will configure this repository to have a domain. Variables, new variable. Yep, not here. All right. So this change did not trigger the GitHub action. I did not change any file, but again, I will just rerun the latest one. Cool. So now it will run for about 2 minutes because everything is already installed and configured. So it will just check that everything actually is. Let's continue with our presentation. So monitoring, let's check that live. So DigitalOcean, this is just advertisement for DigitalOcean, I guess. But this is what you will be able to see. So this is where the droplet was created. And the installation took a chunk of CPU time, but then it actually calms down. So here I can actually see the CPU, the load, the memory, disk I/O, so write operations and disk usage. So we are at 32% with freshly installed Mautic, and the bandwidth of how many data we were sending back and forth. So this is what you get. Then there is this monitoring tab that you can configure alerts. So if your CPU is too high or you're running out of disk space, you can set an alert and you will get notified before it's too late. So you can also, this is what I wanted to show you as well. So you can resize your droplet. If you're running out of disk or CPU, you can always go higher, 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 and higher, whatever your use case needs. Okay, so this is how you can avoid some issues when your Mautic instance is growing. You can start small and upgrade as you need, but as you see, if you have very low very low usage of your instance, for example, for my hobby projects, this is way more than I need. So it works well. Okay, so that's monitoring. Okay, let's look at troubleshooting. So if your CPU is, for example, running too high and you have no idea what to do, so you can log in. Oh, you won't be able to see that. So I will just tell you because it opens a new window, so I'm not sharing that. So I will just tell you what you will see. It will open a command line or terminal window for you. You don't have to log in on it or anything. And you will paste this command in, and you will see which container is using what resources. So, for example, at one point when I was debugging this, the worker started acting up, and I could see that it was using 100% of CPU because it wasn't happy. It couldn't connect to some other container. So it was logging a lot of messages and trying to connect in an infinite loop. So if you get to that point, you will be able to see it identified here. And once you identify which container is using so many resources, then you will be able to log into it, or even look at the live logs as they are coming in. And you can also log into each of the containers like you would do into VPS with this command. And you can run some scripts, some commands there if you need to. If you need to check something or execute cache clear or whatever, you can do that. So here's an example. You will log into the container. This time it is cron container. You get one folder below the doc root. So into the HTML folder, you run the cache clear command. It will execute. You enter exit or command D, and you are back to the VPS. So I wrote down what I was kind of necessary. I had to necessarily used to build this repository and debug everything. So here's the scaling part that I just showed you. Vertical scaling, I'll show you that. So with Mautic 5, as I mentioned, you can scale the workers. So let's look at the worker container definition. And here you can specify replicas. So if I want to send 2 times faster, I'll just edit this, put number 2 here, commit it. It will automatically deploy, and I will have 2 worker containers instead of 1, sending 2 times faster. All right, let's pause here. So this is deployed. Am I running out of time?
I mean, we have a couple of questions. If we want to answer them, I think we should then switch to the question session.
Yeah, I will just finish to show how it's on my domain. It's using SSL. Somewhere it should be, yeah, it's not complaining that it's unsecure. So yeah,
Cool.
Let's go for the questions.
Pretty cool. So, and the comments and questions show that people are very impressed. Thank you very much. I start with the highest voted question first from Andrew. Do you have suggestions about the minimum specs for various use cases? So what would you consider to be factors that are important, and is there anything that you want to say for that?
It varies. So at Acquia we have many customers, and it's hard to tell what requirements they need, because and we have auto-scaling and all that, which is another level. But basically, it doesn't even depend of, for example, how many contacts an instance have. It depends of if they are using segments heavily or campaigns heavily. If they are sending a segment email every day to 1 million contacts, then the database will grow. So it all depends. I cannot answer that.
But maybe then scaling is also the answer. I mean, you showed that there are not now with version 5 much more ways on how to scale Mautic. So it's probably adjusting by demand, right?
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to say, is that you just start small, and if you get an alert, hey, you are running 80% CPU, you should do something about that. Just click a button and add one more CPU to that.
Thanks. Then it's not that I choose my questions before I can, because I can choose them, but other people voted this up. Is the resulting instance considered to be production ready?
I have not tried it on production yet. I plan to move my hobby project to this setup, but it's not there yet. At least I didn't have time. I was preparing for this talk, and
Not a legal question.
But
okay.
Yeah, it's on your risk. I don't want to.
I mean, the past was said like you can use this Docker, but it's not considered to be production ready. But now it could be.
Yeah, I think it's definitely better than what many people are using.
Good, thank you very much. Then next question from Guzman. How do you handle DB backups? Is this handled by DigitalOcean?
Yes, good question. So there is a backup option, so it will back up the whole virtual server for you. It's at, I think, additional $1 per month. So you can use that.
Okay, good. Next question.
Okay.
As I saw that you use cron jobs in parallel in your example. What do you think about, should they run in parallel? Should they better be concatenated? So one cron job triggers an amount of different cron jobs, one by each other after each other?
Yeah, that's what I need help with, because I don't have really experience with cron jobs. So for my hobby Mautic instances, I use cronfig, which is a service that I wrote, I don't know, 8 years ago. And at Acquia, we don't use cron jobs at all. We have queues and workers. So if you can help me, please do so. The repository, I will open source it right now.
I will get it back to you about this. And I think there were also other people as well who had some experience with cron jobs and timing them and everything. So we can bring those people in. Thanks a lot. Then we still have another question. And it's more like I think a broad question about what's the best option in terms of cost, simplicity, performance from Andrew. What's your personal view on that? Because I think everyone has a different view on that.
Yeah. So most of the big companies are using the biggest players like AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, right? Those three. And this can be modified to, instead of DigitalOcean, it can be used everywhere. I have this example run on DigitalOcean, but you can just take my repository, change a few things, and it can be deployed anywhere you want.
Thank you. So I think this also answers the master question. What is this going to cost?
Right,
to
it's
use
up to you.
your work.
My work. Oh, okay. So let's address that right now. So I will just go to settings, danger zone, and make it public.
I think that's a good choice. Thank you very much. I think people will appreciate it very much. Thank you for all your work with the script and with the thought work and with the presentation. I think that's really appreciated by the community. And yeah, looking forward what people will say. There are a lot of comments already in the session with people thanking you for that. Thank you very much for your presentation and your work.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thanks. And people, you can join to the lobby if you like. You still have like 15 minutes left or 14 minutes until we start the next session. Meet other people. That's the good thing about Mautic conference. Get together, make connections. Thank you very much. See you. Bye-bye.